Hello, everyone. Happy day. I hope everybody's feeling healthy, safe. We're going to do some painting. I'm very excited. Um, for today, we're going to need the materials as always, but make sure you also get a pencil, just a regular pencil. For this one, we'll have to um, draw at first what is it that we're going to paint, like overall. And your brush and your paints, right? And your paper and your water, actually. Sorry, yeah, water too. I have a couple of this. Awesome. So today we got a surprise because I'm gonna tell you what we're gonna do. We're gonna draw it and everything, paint it, but at the end I'll have a surprise and a little bit of homework for you to do on what we're gonna paint now. Okay. So let's get started. Why don't we just get started? Okay. So as I always have said, um, when you draw with water, in when you draw for watercolor painting on the paper, you want to make sure that um, you don't press too hard on the pencil or you don't emphasize the pencil. It's fine if towards the end, when the painting is done, you can still see the pencil, right? Because you cannot erase it. Once you start painting over the pencil and what you drew, um, you don't go back with the eraser because that will affect the painting. So the pencil is left there and it's very slightly. And if you go to any museum or gallery and see watercolors, they either don't have pencil or drawing because the artists avoid that, or if they have the pencil, it's still there and it's fine. It's no problem. It's just something that you don't want to emphasize too much. So on that note, we want to draw lightly and with the lines necessary for you to see. So you're the artist and you're the one that's going to look at those lines and discern what is it that you needed to point out. Um, okay, so some of you may need more drawing than others, just to know what is it that you're going to do. Okay, so this will painting will have a field and some people in it and some flowers. That's basically it. It's very simple, but we're gonna kind of enrich it in that simplicity and see what comes out of it. Since it's good weather, flowers are coming. Okay, so ready? Grab your pencils. Get your entire paper. This is about 8.5 by 11, or in artist's measurements, the sheet more likely will be 9 by 12. Okay, that's a standard measurement, I always say, because then you get 18 by 24, right? 24 by 36, which is three, Um, okay, so we're gonna split the paper visually in half from top to bottom, and the top will be the sky, and the bottom will be the field and the trees in the back. Okay, it will be a little bit more than just a half. So the field will have a tiny little bit more space than the sky. Okay, so you, with your eye, kind of think where is the line that divide the paper in half. Kind of about here for me. Do not fold the paper because that will leave a very strong mark and bending on the paper we don't want. Remember that watercolor paper is thick. It has a thickness, so that bend will stay there and it will be impossible to get rid of. So when you do that, you may fold the little corners just to see, but not the entire sheet. Okay, so my line is like about here, and you know what? I'll do the fill up to here, and the trees will be above it. That's what we do. And just because of the tree in the back, the trees in the background, that raises the line higher. Okay, so I'm gonna draw this line first, and just about the middle of the paper here, from left to right, the fill kind of takes a little curve, a little indent here coming down. So we're gonna draw the line. Look, I might draw my lines a little darker for you to see, but before I start painting, I may erase a little. The erasing I meant that you cannot do is after you start painting, okay? But before you put paint on the paper, you could erase, you know? So the line goes like this, right? And I had it in my mind as I look at the paper, and what I mean is there's a little down here right in the middle, comes down and come back up and keeps going. See that? So this is the limit of the field. So this down here is the field, up here is the sky, and now we're gonna do the trees in the background, in the back. Okay. So the trees are gonna be a bunch of trees. Okay, just the silhouette, and the silhouette means the outline, the form that um, goes around a form. When you think about it, any form has to have a limit, right? And that limit is the silhouette or the outline. So when you look at things and you define them, like this pencil, right? It's a form, and that form, when visually, this is visually, has an outline that defines it and contains the yellow, the red of the eraser, the silver of the metal. You know what I mean? Okay. So the trees, we're gonna focus on that outline, not what's inside, just the outline. And there's gonna be a bunch of them. Okay. Now, right about here to the left, there's gonna be a bigger tree. Okay. So again, I'm gonna draw this darker than usual, but these lines that I'm doing should be lighter. So let's start. And actually, I'm gonna start with that big tree here, and the trunk goes. This is the only tree that shows a little bit of the trunk. So the trunk is curvy like this, up to here, kind of curvy. Again, I'm making it very dark for you to see, but in reality, this should be very, very light. And the top of this tree is um like a lollipop. Look like a circle like that. Maybe smaller, a smaller circle. Okay, and it's surrounded by a body of a tree. Again, it looks weird like this because it's just the outline. Now let's do all the other trees. And I'm going to tell you about a surprise that happens over here at the trees. There's a little kind of pine tree here, triangle. Again, I'm going to make these lines darker so you can see them. Now there's a big mass of outline here that goes up, three pointy, 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 and kind of close right here. Okay, so you see the outline? So these are trees, it's just you see the outline. We're not going to focus on the inside yet. We know it's darker green compared to the field, but let's continue with those outlines. So now here we see a round one, like a round, another bigger round, another round, three, a thinner one, four, a little small one, five, and then these are like trees that come up like this. One, two, three, four. These ones coming up are together. Five, six, and a bigger one, seven. Okay. So we started with the little one here, that big mass, the one that stands out. One, two, but don't do them all the same. You see how this one is bigger? Three, this one is thinner. Okay, now there's a couple of things in this line of view. Okay, I'm gonna give you half a minute to catch up. Okay, so first of all, in this little one right here, you see the little bump right between the two on either side. There's a house. Okay, it's a simple house. I'm gonna bring the camera closer, and it goes like this. You're gonna see the roof. It goes in an angle here. Roof. This is the roof. And then in paint later, we're gonna do the little lines here, like tuk 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 tuk, like the windows. I don't want to emphasize them too much with the pencil because they're gonna be done with paint. But we got the roof. This is the body of the house, and it's gonna have these little lines representing the windows. Okay. Now on this side, towards the left, in that big mass that we had here, guess what? There's the figure of a mother and a child. Don't worry about it because they're very far and we're not gonna really give too much detail to them. So I'm gonna put the camera right on that silhouette of the trees right here. And let's start with the mother. So the mother it has a hat, so circle. Then the head, the face, and the neck shows like this, like the head will be here, and the neck continues with the dress cutting like this. So right, And then the body's a mass coming from this triangle here of the neck, like this, coming boom, down, boom, down. And she shows two little circles here, which we can guess is her hands. I know it looks funny and weird, but um, this is very far away. And when we paint it and we look at it, we'll discern and say, oh, that's a woman, right? Because we're going to color this differently. And we're going to know that this is skin color or, and then there's a hat, must be a hat. Next to her, there's a bump like this, a circle for the head, and a little kind of hat. And that kind of tells us that it's a child. Now, this is a field, okay? So they're standing on the ground, yes, but you know how if you go to a field or in the forest and you encounter a field, um, depending how high the grass is, um, your body is immersed in it, right? So we don't see maybe her legs or feet because they are in the field. They are standing between, inside the plants. So that's it for the silhouette of the trees in the back. Um, the two people, mom and child, and the house back here. And then what I'm gonna do in this um, down little hill here, I'm gonna make a mask inside the field, kind of like this, just a mask, because later we're gonna paint it. And I want you to think, okay, as you did this, I want you to think of the field, which is the part down here, half down, as the left and the right. Okay, so there's gonna be stuff here to the left, and there's gonna be there's gonna be something happening here to the left, and to the right differently. Okay, so think as we paint later, we don't need to draw this. This side, the left, is gonna be a little different than the right. Okay, and depending what we paint and how we do it, gives us um, how the ground is behaving. Think about it, because if I put everything like my fingers are going right now, horizontally, that tells me the field is pretty even, right? If I were to paint things in the field that are wavy like this, then the field in the ground tells me it's wavy because the plants are behaving like that. If I paint same thing, look at my fingers, kind of like in an angle coming down like this, what that tells me is that the field ground here is a little kind of hilly because there's like a little hill coming down. Okay, so we're gonna do some flowers in paint. We don't need to draw them. And they're gonna be in a pattern that kind of goes down a little. And what that tells me is that where the mom and the child are up here, to get down, whoop, the flowers are like coming down on a hill rather than all even. You'll see. And to emphasize that, we're going to talk about composition here in a little bit. To emphasize what I just said, I'm going to put another mother and child to the right bottom here. And what that does is that look at my pencil, it's in an angle. So mother and child, and there's going to be a mother and child here. So for these two to get down here, they're crossing the field, yes, but they're crossing the field kind of like in a downward pattern, and that's how the flowers are going to be. So that makes it more interesting, more realistic, right? And it makes us realize that whoever's down here came from up here, came down. Okay, so this mother and child are going to be very interesting because they're also standing in the field, right? We don't have to worry about the waist down. In the child, we don't have to worry about their torso down because the child is shorter, right? Smaller. So you ready? They're going to be a tiny bigger too, and the reason why they're bigger is because they're closer to us. Okay, let's finish this drawing. But trust me, it's necessary. That way, when we paint, we just do what we need to do. We're more confident about where things are gonna be. Okay, so here, let's start with the body. It's kind of like I'm gonna do the whole body like this. like like half an oval, and the arm is extending. This is the arm extending. This is the torso, and the other arm's kind of bends in. See how I'm making a curve here? Sorry. So there's a hand here at the end of this arm. There's a hand here at this end of this arm. Now we can define this a little better, the dress. So it's going to come in, come in. The head is here, the face, and also has a hat. Now, behind her here to the left, I'm going to do a circle, big circle. But this circle, we're going to break it down like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now those little pointy things make me believe when the circle transforms to these curved things that it's an umbrella. Okay, we know now that's an umbrella. We're going to paint that blue. Now the shawl next to her here to the left, all we see is the head. So I'm going to do a little circle here. The hat, a little bit of the shoulders here coming down. All right, that's it. I'm not gonna, if you notice, we're not gonna finish the bottom part of them because they are in the field. When we paint, they're gonna be covered in that bottom part of the field. So I know it doesn't look much like them, like these are people, but when we paint them, they will look, it will make sense. This is so you see the bigger picture. Um, so there is the sky, and there'll be clouds in the sky. Okay, I gotta be careful as I draw this with the pencil. But there's gonna be a lot of wideness of the paper that represents the clouds. So there's gonna be a cloud here. This all is gonna be white. So this whole thing is white. There's a big cloud here. Okay. So basically, when I put the blue of the sky, I'm gonna go around these areas, around. So the blue is around it as the sky, and the big masses are the paper, which is white and will represent the clouds. The bottom here behind the silhouette of the trees is white too. So careful with the blue getting in here. It shouldn't get too much in here because behind the trees is basically whiteness of the clouds. And we're ready to paint. So again, take a look at this. Again, please draw what I drew as close as you can, and then lighter. Don't use the pencil as dark as I did because you don't need to. It will be shown in the painting, and We don't mind showing it in the painting, but we want the less uh, impression of it. So I did it very dark so you could see it on the video. Okay. Okay. So we're gonna start with the sky, which is a light thing, then the field, and then we're gonna do the trees and the people. Um, and that order that I just mentioned, if you think about it, is follows the rule that I always emphasize in watercolor, where you start with lighter and then build upon darker. So this is the lightest, this is light, and the green of the trees will be the darkest thing. And the woman here is also a little darker because it gets a little more defined since she's closer to us. Okay, it's been a lot of time without painting, but it was important to do this part, okay? And I have a surprise, like I said at the end of the video, and that I'll tell you about this painting, and then you have a little homework. That obviously, of course, if you wish to do it, but I do recommend it. Um, Great. So let's grab our blue for the sky. Okay, I'm going to be very lightly and careful. So when you want to be lightly and careful, you use water, right? That way your color is not too strong. Um, and remember, like I always say, sometimes the first time we put that brush on the paper with the color is the strongest because it's carrying the color and the water wants to just go right into the paper. So sometimes if you want to even go very lightly, extremely lightly, you want to tap the tip of the brush into tissue. So that's another tip. Or if you have a piece of paper of watercolor next to you that you don't care for. So this is what I mean. Sometimes we don't need it this time, but sometimes in little small detail areas, that first dip, you want to maybe do it on the tissue because you see it carries a lot of color. So then the next time it's not that strong. But here we have a lot of space, so we could play around. Okay, so follow what I do. You see how I'm going around the areas we mark as the clouds. And we could use water to spread that. And that right there, my friends, is like a cloud, an isolated cloud, you see. But I'm going to keep going around to create more sky. Let's go around the masses that I said were going to be the clouds. I put a little cloud up there too. I'm gonna put you see another mass that represents a cloud. And this big mass here, that is the clouds. Ta-da! And I left the whiteness behind the silhouettes of the trees. Um, White as if it's clouds. Perfect. Any very sharp blue Try to dissipate it with water because the sky is not really strong. So I'll show you closer from left to right. So the white of the paper becomes the clouds. Okay. Now we're gonna do the field, and the field is gonna be very lightly. Okay. And this is what we're gonna do. The reason why it's lightly the green of the field is because there's gonna be flowers on top of them. I mean, on some spots, like a little more kind of reddish, orangey flowers. So we need the surface where those flowers are gonna be light, so the color can stand out. If I were to put a darker color or rich color, when I put the flowers on top, they're not gonna be seen because the color that they're going on top of it's too dark. Or okay, so we gotta be very gentle. We're gonna go around the child and the mom. Um, it's gonna be a very light green, but not bright, like a dull um, light green. And in that light green, we have to play around with a little bit of maybe blue in some areas, and adding those colors. What it does, it creates depth, right? Because it be patches. It's like if you look at the ocean or you look at a field, when you really pay attention, there's patches of other colors. It's not an even color. If it were an even color, it would be not real. Those patches are shadows, shades, um, parts that light up. I don't know. So let's do the green. And like I said, careful because it's not a bright green. It is light, but it's not bright. We don't want it to be fighting with the flowers that later we're gonna do. Okay, so if I were to test, okay, that's light and kind of dull. This is great. See, it's almost like the blue of the sky, but obviously it's green. Look how light that is. But I need a lot of it, so I'm gonna set it up here and make sure that I always have my water to light it up. Because if you leave the brush after you pick the color from here and you go straight, that's gonna be too rich, too rich. It's okay if some of the green layers, because you waited a few seconds to put the next one on dry paper, because that creates depth too. Um, like I said, let's go around the woman and child, which means don't put the green over them. Going around means avoiding painting their bodies, but the bottom where they are standing on the field should diffuse, kind of like that. You see now that it looks like they're in the field. Very light green. Don't worry about it. The painting is going to be very light. except for the background trees. And also, watercolor in general is light. I mean, you can make it rich if you choose to, but more likely, watercolors are going to be light because you're using water and you want to emphasize the use of that water. See how this is richer, but I quickly add my water to spread down that color. That's very rich, so I add water. Okay, this area too. Okay, perfect. So now is the part where I said maybe some patches of blue going down like this. Back here, maybe some yellow. So let's see. And those colors, if you think about it, are part of green. Green has yellow and green has blue. So back here, I'm making the green a little more. Yeah, and this patch that we drew, remember? Look, I'm adding a lot of kind of yellow. And I say patches, so there's no pattern. Look how this area now looks a little more yellowish. Let's wait for the camera to focus. Right. Sometimes it takes a few seconds. There you go. You see the yellow? Okay, so now the blue will come down here. We need to make sure we spread it. And it adds a little darkness. So a little patch here, maybe a patch in this front area. But we gotta be careful that it's not too strong. So it creates depth because this darkness, right, are over things. See, they're coming down. Okay, I think this is almost good enough. There's a patch here because there's gonna be flowers on top of it and maybe something going on here. That's it. Okay. I want to put light green up here where the trees meet. And something that's not working on my behalf, but it's okay, okay, is the point where the trees meet the field. If you think about it, for me, it has that pencil line. And it's okay, it's really emphasizing my drawing, but usually we do not want that to be so emphasized. Okay. Why don't we do the, let's see. Oh, yeah, why don't we do the tree? I'm thinking. Why don't we do the flowers? The famous flowers we've been talking about. So it's like a reddish, orangey poppy flower. I'm clearing some of the blue so it doesn't mix with my red. So I'm gonna do the flowers now. Okay. Let's see. And let's test it. So orange. You see, I'm gonna start with the lighter, the less. Okay. Now let's see. Adding a little bit of red to the side here. So I don't do it in the entire color, because if I do it in the entire color, it's gonna change. I want to play around with the orange and the red. So I put the red here to the side. Okay. All right. Let's test this. Let's do little flowers all spread out. Like I said, towards the left, most of them coming down in lines coming down. And as they're closer to us here, they get a little bigger. But let's test them, like I said, maybe one here. That's very red. So now I know that I want to do some orange. Yeah, it becomes darker because the green that's under it. So it's a game between green, orange and red. And we may want to keep them lighter. So there's something that's going to happen. If the brush is too wet, the flower will be rich in color because it's just too wet. But it's got to be having water, the color watered down, but the brush not too wet. Because if it's too wet, that all that water um, becomes intensified. So spread it. Okay. So right here in front of the girl's face, look, I'm gonna do one. And what that means is that the girl is holding one flower. Okay. In front of them, kind of farther away, so we can make sure that flower stands out as she's holding it. We'll do some a bunch bigger. And remember, these are a little bigger, but when we go down here, they're gonna be smaller. There's some in front of them right here. One, two, three, four. Yeah, and then put them randomly down. Some smaller than others. Some bigger. And now we're going to concentrate on this left eye. So look how small will be the ones I'm talking about back here in front of these ones. Little taps. And more concentrated, because the reason why they're farther away means they are more concentrated. There's more of them. And as things get closer to us, they spread out, right? It's like it's part of perspective. So if you go into a room and you look down the floor, as the tiles of the floor, let's say it's a tile floor, as the tile of the floors go into the distance, they also come together. There's more of them per space. while the tiles closer to you are are more spread out and bigger. When you line this up, these flowers, don't make perfect lines. Okay, break them apart by doing maybe masses of them together. Um, but we're gonna be here for a while because this whole side is filled with flowers. They're left. Okay, we're gonna be here for a while. Up here, very close to us, you could do a few less. So maybe one, two. Don't fill too much the actual corner to the bottom left. And something that's gonna happen is that the flowers, the color will dry, and the whole painting will dry. So as it dries, it becomes a little lighter, and that's exactly what we want. We want the color to be bright, but also not opaque. We want it to be transparent. And once it dries is when you actually see that. When you put down the paint, yes, you see that it's lighter. It's a different color, sure, but it's not until it actually dries that you see how light it actually is. Look how small these back here are. And make sure they shouldn't touch the edge of the field because that's too far away. But if you do patches, like you see what happened back here, they all got together. That's fine because what that represents, don't do too much of that, but what that represents is a clump. There's a clump of them in a flower, and if a flower is too big, that's what it actually. Sorry, if a flower is too big, way in the back, it actually could represent a group of them. It's not like one flower. It's just like a clump in the distance. So after the flowers, we're gonna do the people, and then we do the trees. Actually, I might do the trees before the people, just for the fact that the trees are around these two back here, and I wouldn't want if I do the trees at the end um, to mess up their paint already. So I'm gonna paint them. Sorry, I wouldn't want to mess up the space where they're going to be painted. So if I paint them first, I know exactly where not to go over. Okay, so they come down like this. There's a few left here. And I put a little space between this mass and this mass up here. And the space, if you think about it, is also diagonal. It's like a gap. But there's basically rows. Yeah, they're basically a sense of organic random rows of flowers. Okay. Maybe back here they're bigger too. And that's cool because in nature sometimes you see that because this is like a hill, they all grew in this side. I don't know, or someone intentionally planted them like that, but I doubt it. It looks like they're wild poppy flowers that like grew towards this side of the hill. You gotta understand to keep that kind of randomness nature provides makes it more real, but at the same time you gotta know a little bit, get a sense of controlling it a little so it makes sense. Um, Even though there's no pattern per se. So these ones are falling like in a line. And there's a bunch here, like I said earlier, in front of them, in front of the child and in front of the woman. Okay. And I said I was gonna do the people before the trees. I think that's good enough. Um, you know. So let's do the people. If we need to do more flowers, I still have the color. So her dress is gonna be lighter blue. Let's see how this works. The whole and it mixes with the field, so there's like a blending. There you go. It mixes right there. The child too. His little shoulder. A little darker, maybe purple for the hair around the head. So look, okay. There you go. Same thing with the mom back here. Hair covered by the head. And the mom will have like a scarf. So it goes down on the neck and it opens up like down here with one strand. I gotta wait, you see? So what happened is the body and the dress are still wet. So the moment I put a different color, it went and diffused. So we're gonna have to wait for this to dry. I'm picking up that purple so it stays blue, the dress. So I'll wait a little for the two ends of her scarf in the middle of her body because it needs to be dry. Okay, I can actually do the blue of the umbrella. This is going to be very simple. The umbrella is actually blue. See? The hat is going to be left kind of white. It's going to have a string on the woman and on the child. You know what? I could make like a little band that is red. Oop. Um, so let me see if I can do that. Like a little band on the top. The mom is going to have a line around the head here in purple and the two lines in her chest. That is the scarf falling down. Now let's go to the woman and child back here. So what's happening back here is her dress, the little child dress very lightly. It is actually also blue, a darker blue. Sorry, a lighter blue. And the mom, it is actually purple. Or not, yeah, dark enough to be um, purplish. We always want to be able to light it up with water, but let's see what happens. Now remember, avoid her two circles representing her hands. Since her body now is wet, I can add more color in that wetness. The hat, both hats are white too, or yellowish, a little yellowish, but I'm going to put a little line up here for the mom. And I'm going to go back to the scarf of the mom down here. This should be dry by now. And my point was that it goes down here one and goes down here the second. Maybe a little shadow over the under the um, elbow and outline. Oh yeah, and the line in the hat that goes kind of like this. Okay. All right, let's do the sorry if it wasn't focused. Um and I wasn't showing you how I did this stuff back here. I apologize. I was too concentrated on it. But what we did just to point it out is that little purple line in the hat, the two lines of the scarf in the front of her chest. I put purple under her elbow to emphasize that curve, and then yeah, should put a little bit of color on her skin, and then the ones back here are like that. Should emphasize her dress and make it even. So make sure that I make it even. That okay, and the hand. Let's put a tiny little bit of yellowish or light up. Okay, let's do the back, the trees in the back, which are darker green. So I left the blue and purple that was already there and added with the green. See what happens, and it became a little darker. Look, sorry. So let's fill this up. It's very dark, so we're gonna add water to what we could do is make the edges of it, of some of the outline, a little more rough, so the outline is not that clean. So here's what I mean. You see how these three are very round? So we can break that roundness, making it more um, making it less um, perfect. The outline is a little more jaggedy, or see. So there's one here, We're gonna deal with this house in a moment, and there's another here. Let's do the one that's behind the mom and child back here. Sorry. It's a big mass. See, we could carefully kind of go around them now because we know where they are and we painted them. That's it. I'm using all the color. I gotta create more green and match this one. So when you create the new color, try to match what you already done. And I remember that mine had blue. So I'm gonna add some blue. And it became very dark, this new color. And that's okay. Because that means I need to add water. Sometimes darker just means opaque or more pure color without the water. There you go. So I'm gonna make, especially towards the side here of the mom, a little more darker this green. You see, we can control that with the opaqueness of the color. Less water. Let's move on to this other side. If something is too green, too dark, you could grab some of that color. Look, you see, I'm scooping it from that tree that was very dark right here. See the field in the back? Sorry, I'm playing around with the camera. Um, it's very bright in the video. Sorry, the whole kind of the entire, you know, paper, but it in reality it's a little more colorful. Um, oh yeah, the top of this tree up here that looked like a lollipop, remember, tends to be lighter and lighter, so that's enough. Clean my brush, spread that around, and that just that makes it lighter. That's maybe too light, so I'm adding a little more color. And I'm actually gonna add a little bit of yellow because that part becomes a little more yellowish. Okay, so here's the yellow. And the yellow will go also a little bit in the body of the tree down here and the trunk. Remember, we could see a little bit of the trunk, so that's going to be also yellowish. And the water, obviously, also besides lighting up the colors, also makes the paint flows better. So the water that I just put is allowing me to spread, look, the yellow that I put up here. Okay. Um, awesome. I'm going to bring the yellow that was up here a little higher, as if it's these flowers were racing up here and down here, a little more emphasize yellow, and up here lines. Okay. As you can see, these patches of yellow are blending in, and the water allows them to blend in. Because without water, it will be too dry. And yes, the house. So the roof of the house is a very light reddish pink, orangey, very light. When I say light, it means the color needs to be watered down. See, and then the windows also very light because they're in the distance. So one, let's see, one, two. See how light that is? And you see how the pencil, we can see it through the silhouette. So it's fine, but it shouldn't be that dark, that strong, because then it conflicts with what we're looking at. Visually, we want to see the paint. We don't want to see too much of the pencil. But I'm going to show you the painting close up in sections. And right now, in this shot here, it's the entire thing. So you could pause it here. Um, Let me try something. I'm going to put the painting in a black background, and that helps us also visually see it. So let's test that. I'm not going to clean my paint yet in case I have to do something and tell you the surprise and your little homework to do, which has to do with painting watercolor. um, but look, I have this board that's black, and if I put the painting on top of it, we are gonna see it a little better, just for the fact that it emphasized the colors in the. Let's try to get it all in the shot. So bear with me as I accommodate the camera. It's about right there. Perfect. Um, so this helps us. Sometimes when you look at things, you want to be careful with the things around it, not to clutter your vision. So right now, I'm not sure if you see in this video in the projection, it's great. But if you notice, it's very, it's not extremely bright, but the colors around the projection or the wall or the lights are light, beige or white or light. So if the image in the projection or is also light, we have a hard time discerning, and that's why in movie theaters, right, they shut the lights so you focus on what's on the screen. We cannot do that because we got to work with light to see, but it works. We're looking at the painting. I just want you to be aware. In galleries or museums, you walk into the galleries and the walls obviously only have the paintings. You don't want other stuff because it conflicts with what you're looking at. It's like clutter for your vision. So right now you're looking at the painting in a black background, and you make focus a little better. Um, yeah. So again, if you came a little later, this is a video that you could watch again. You could go back to see how I did a certain thing. You could pause it. You could play a section over and over before you actually start painting, like the yellow here. How did he do that? Well, let me look at it before I do it a few times. Um, you see how the house is lighter because it's very far. The trees have to be dark because that's the nature of the trees. Their silhouettes in the background. The field is in front, the woman and child, and back here, kind of hidden. That's the key with these two back here. I forgot to tell you. that because they are in this body of trees in front of, they're kind of hidden. If you don't pay attention, you won't see them. So when you show this to a friend, right, that didn't see you painting it, and it's the first time they see it, they may not see at first the mother and child that's back here, because they're like camouflage. And then the sky, which are clouds, and the way we did them is we actually painted the blue in between them and left the paper as clouds in between. There's a big mass here of clouds. And yeah, the colors in the field, a little blue and yellow, and especially the blue coming down here. You see these patches of blue, one here, some coming down like that, the one in this corner, and the ones in front of the moms and child. What that does, it creates depth. Again, it creates depth and distance. If I were not to do that and leave that first green we did, it becomes too plain, too dull. Um, okay, so I'm gonna go over it closer, and then that will be it. I'll tell you what this is. So this is the sky. Let's go over the sky. You see the pencil that was representing where that cloud was gonna be? It's very light. That's how light we actually want our pencil to be. We can see it, but it's not conflicting with with what we're looking at. So I could get away with making the clouds pencil lighter for this video because the painting in the sky was going to be light. Okay. Then we have the row of trees with the mom and child. I'm getting here closer. We got the house. And you see each tree is shaped in pencil first. We drew it. I drew it, and I drew it very dark and hard. And I shouldn't do that in reality, but I did it for the video. If you're gonna draw the pencil, sorry, the trees outline, make sure that you do it lighter. And then the house, we did the roof, but we didn't do the windows in pencil. We just did that in paint. But we knew we were gonna do that. And then the trees back here. That we broke that line of the pencil to make them more organic, more edgy with the outline. There's yellow right in front of them, and to be honest, what that yellow actually represents is if there were really yellow flowers all the way back there, all the way back there. Those are the flowers. And this patch right here in the middle, that's very yellow, is also a patch of flowers. So now let's go to the field here from the right to the left. You see, there's the yellow. There's the mom and child down here. And we know that their clothes was blue. There was purple in her scarf, the line in the hat, the hair. The child has a flower right in front of her um, that more likely represents that she's holding it. And look at all these little dots and organic kind of. I won't say dots. It's like patches of small flowers. That's what actually that represents. Poppies in field. So look how it looks. You see how even though it's not perfect lines, we can see that it's lined up going down. Sorry, going down in this angle, diagonal, from the top left to the bottom right. You can actually see that direction. Some are lighter, some are darker, just because of the amount of water we put on them. So this surprise is that, and I didn't want to show you before, is that this is a painting. I was copying a painting, okay? And the painting, that's why I won't sign it. If you copy a painting, you have to, if you sign it, you have to say after. You sign it and then you write after and the name of the original artist. So in this case, this is a Monet. So you will write after Monet. And that means This is a copy um, from a Monet, and it's titled "It is a poppy field." A field of poppies, and it's also near the town of Argenteuil in France. Um, so now, yeah, that's so this that was the news. I'm gonna write it. I'm gonna write it on a piece of paper, um, so you can see it here on the video. So you write it down on your end, and the thing that you need to do is that I want you to Google that, so you can look in your phone or computer the original, and look at what you just did. Okay, that's part of the homework. Just to Google the original, and then the homework, if you wish to do it, is to do it again, to paint it again. Now looking at the original. Okay, um, you will notice that because of a watercolor, very likely you need to follow this order that we did follow. Um, in Monet's case, it is oil painting, so there's no real order. You could approach an oil painting in so many different ways. Watercolor requires you to follow a certain order, like I said, because of the dark colors should be towards the end. Okay, so this is his name, is Cloud. You know, I wonder where is this painting. Let's see. Just out of curiosity, because it'd be very interesting if it's um hmm. Yeah, where is the original? Oh, it's in Paris. Okay, it's in d'Orsay. It's in the Musée d'Orsay. So, um, this is the artist. He was one of the top in the group of the Impressionists, and he painted a lot. Every painter at that time was very productive. But the key with him, besides so many things, that he was one of the leaders, and fortunately, he lived the longest. So he saw all his other friends pass away, and he lived longer, and um, that obviously allows him to paint more, produce more. This is his name, right? Claude Monet, and the title of the painting is there's different titles, but it could more likely it will go by the title of they sometimes say "Child in the Field," but in reality, it's a field of puppies, and it's in the Museo d'Orsay. When you see it again, you will not be able to discern their faces, detail. There's actually an expression um, that people say that something is it's a Monet when when it looks right, when it all makes sense from far away. But if you get closer, you can't really see details. You can't really right. So something is a Monet if um, and the reason why their group was named Impressionist is because they were capturing just a moment in time, especially the day, the light of the sun. So it was they would capture just the impression of that. So a lot of them did a lot of work with the outside, um, catching a moment in the day. Yes, they're portraits. Yes, they're still lifes, but the majority of them are fields or you know trees or flowers or things like that. and you can actually kind of guess what time of the day it was. That's how good they were. And one last anecdote, he will paint series. He will have maybe, I don't know, 25 paintings of the same subject, but different times of the day. So he will, paint one canvas and put it down, and the next hour pick up the next canvas of the same thing, and then come back the next day and paint the 3 o'clock painting and switch it to the 4 o'clock. So at the end, he has a ton of paintings, and each one is like a time in the day. Um, so that was very interesting. So that's it. So again, this is Monet, Cloud Monet, Poppy Fields, and then go look it up, Google it. So now you can compare what you did with the original, and I hope that you also get to uh, energy to paint it again. Now that you know the structure of it, and looking at the original, and who knows. Um, okay, so enjoy. Have a good weekend. Clean your paint. So, because if you have the same system here that I have, if I close this little door, right, that wet paint may mix with the rest. So if it's dry, leave it alone. But if it's wet, clean up a little. The dry one I save, right? Look, it's dry, because I could in the next time put water and don't waste that paint. Great. So I'll see you next time, and stay safe.